Hold on, I'm preparing. Welcome to the New York Urbanist, the podcast that explores how New York City moves, feels, and changes every day. My name is Kerbin, and I'm here with the French Frog.
Oh, bonjour, bonjour, Kerwin. How are you today? So,
Oh, great.
no.
Keep going, keep going. I'm great.
Oh, great. So, French for here. I remember I moved to New York 2 years ago, and you know what? I used to work for the UN, and I moved here. It was like I got so fascinated by the public transit here, street design. So, you know what? I'm going to get my third master's in transportation planning. And then, yeah, I started studying transportation planning, and everyone assumed that I would write all my papers about Paris. Everybody wants to know about Paris. Like backlanes everywhere, wide boulevards, reclaim for cars. Thanks to our dear mayor, Anne Hidalgo. The superhero, like all the urban planners look at her like, she's a hero, yeah. But you know what? My first paper, I wrote it about bike parking in Midtown Manhattan. And my professor was like, "Yeah, really?" And I deeply underwhelmed, disappointed. I hope, like, if he listens to this episode, I hope it changed my grade, right? From like, I don't remember how much I got, but it was terrible. But here's the paradox: New York tells us to bike more, but refuses to protect the bikes we ride, and that contradiction shapes everything in the city.
If you've ever locked your bike to a street sign and walked away whispering, please still be here when I get back, this episode is for you. Bike parking might not Bike parking might sound like a minor detail, but it determines whether cycling is a weekend experiment or a daily way of moving throughout New York City.
So today we're asking, can New York continue growing its cycling movement without secure bike parking?
20 years ago, biking here was practically a subculture with a few fearless messengers. But fast forward to now, and biking has absolutely boomed. The number of cyclists has quadrupled since the early 2000s. We've got protected bike lanes on major avenues where nobody thought it would ever exist. The city has proven that it can change things and that change is possible and visible.
Well, of course, like it hasn't all been smooth riding, right? I mean, if all remember Bedford Avenue backlane removal is the kind of, the poster child for how fragile progress is in the city, right? One political fight, one influential opponent, and suddenly safety gets brought back. So moments like that have slowed momentum in recent years, but there's another truth. Secure bike parking has not kept up with the growth in cycling. And that gap is starting to hold us back, right? For example, there's like I don't know if you ever seen this bike secure parking at Grand Central, right? It's kind of hidden. It's like feels kind of ashamed of itself. Nobody so I went there last time. I couldn't find it. It took me like 15 minutes to find it. So and that gap is starting to hold us back actually, right? Um so there's like if you get there you see like it's sleek, it's modern, it's beautiful, it's in the corner.
Despite the growth in cycling, secure bike parking has not kept pace. The space allocated to different models, or excuse me, the space allocated to different modes tells the story clearly. New York provides 1.5 free curb spaces for every registered car, but only one bicycle parking space for every 116 bicycles. This imbalance sends a clear policy signal. Cars are planned for, bicycles must improvise. And when bikes are left unprotected, theft rises. In the first 6 months of 2020 alone, more than 4,400 bikes were reported stolen. That is a 27% increase from the year before. The consequences are significant. Research shows that after losing a bike, many bikers reduce their riding. Many bike dependent workers risk losing income, and mobility options shrink, especially in transit poor neighborhoods. Communities of color and delivery workers are the most impacted. They rely on bicycles to access jobs, essential services, yet they face the greatest risk of bike theft and least access to secure bike parking. This is not only a transportation issue, it's also a mobility equity issue. So French Frog and I went to a event at the Rafa store in Soho, hosted by Transportation Alternatives, Uni, and Cycling Hoop. Cycling Hoop is a bicycle parking company over in London. They give a lot of advice to Uni here in New York City. And yeah, French Frog and I were there, and we got to hear from a few speakers and how London has been able to scale up its bike parking to 36,000 parking spaces, and then just a tiny fraction of the space being used in all of London. So, what did you think of the event, Mikhail or French Frog?
I think it was great. The thing is, you know, when I studied my master's in transportation planning, I thought, um, because I've been a cyclist for over 20 years, you know, like biking everywhere, even in Africa when I was living in Addis Ababa. And the thing is, I thought it's weird because like we've made so much progress in terms of bike infrastructure, in terms of bike lanes, right? Like in Paris and New York, but parking hasn't been an issue. So my professor, the very first class, asked me, like asked me for an outline of my first paper, and came up with like bike parking in New York. And looked at me and I was like, "Seriously? Do you want to write about secure bike parking? Like, can you write something about Paris and I could learn from you? And like, instead of counting the number of racks in Manhattan, who cares actually?" But the thing is, like, we live in a city that actually wants to encourage you to bike, right? And we've seen the immense progress the city has made in the last 20 years in terms of bike lanes and everything. But it's like, but there's a missing piece in this strategy, which is the end, right? Where do I leave my bike? And I feel like in terms of, and we never heard about this. So the same way my professor reacted to my proposal, I feel like the city looks at it like, no, that's not very important. But the thing is, like, there's so much research done, like the last 10 years. For example, like the key figure for me is very important that a research done like 3 years ago showed that actually, so half of the people who get their bike stolen are not going to get a bike again. So if we really want to promote bike as a sustainable alternative to other modes and to cars, we really need to think about this missing piece.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because I know for me myself, like a lot of times, well, that's where City Bike comes in. If I feel like I feel unsafe or I'm not going to be able to attend to my bike, then I just hop on City Bike instead. A lot of times, that's how I handle it. Um, I don't know. How do you handle it, Mikael?
Well, the thing is, like, I'm in between, right? I've used city bike a lot, like to move from point A to point B, and I think it's a safer alternative because I have a road bike, and I'm afraid of leaving my bike just even for 5 minutes, right, on the street. So city bike isn't a good alternative for sure, but so should everybody just have a city bike and not a private bike? And the thing is, like, private bike is a big issue here, right? And for me, what's important, as we say, like as we mentioned before, the city has made so much progress, and we can see that change is actually possible and visible, right? But then Sorry, I know what's going
But
on.
then what? But
Oh, it's
then
fun.
what?
No, it's
What?
fun, but
Yeah, no, I hear you. The city's not. Look, New York City is not stepping up, and based on what I heard, is not the most confident right
oh,
now,
yeah,
and
no,
so
I think like no,
and that's
just look at Bedford Avenue. I don't know if you remember this drama.
oh
There was like they remove a back lane in the middle of like the Bedford Avenue in Williamsburg. And then no, you think that you're in New York City, you're in the middle of the city, and you think like these kind of things that are just guaranteed. Granted, no, they're not because like it shows how fragile progress can be, and we need as advocates to stand up for it, right? So, and the problem is like in a city
totally.
where the number of cyclists have quadrupled in the last 20 years, I feel like secure bike parking has not kept up with the growth in cycling, right? Just look at where is secure bike parking in the city.
Oh yeah, it's in and the richest parts of Manhattan and Brooklyn. Nothing in Queens.
Oh, okay. So for rich people again.
Yeah, nothing in Brooklyn or Queens where they got like a million cycles. I mean, I want I want cycling for everybody personally. So I'm like let's get it done. But people look, I like Eric Adams, but
Oh, you do?
he does well. I feel like I like him personally, but I feel like he kind of like forgets stuff, or he doesn't follow through, and he doesn't focus, and he's letting his friends get him like give him bad advice, and so I'm like, they're taking bribes and things behind his back, and it's like, why are you hanging around people like this?
I mean,
Like,
for me, like I've just I moved to New York 2 years ago, and I feel like I just know this administration. And when you talk to New Yorkers, it's like, oh no, Bloomberg was so bad, and De Blasio was so bad, and then somebody comes and like it is getting worse and worse. So I don't know. My experience here is that yeah, so many projects got canceled in terms like bus lanes, busways, and everything, and I don't know if the mayors were better or worse, but what I've seen like in the last 2 years, like broken promises, due to works on projects that get canceled last minute. So, and the Bedford Avenue, Bedford Red back lane was okay. So actually, are we? So it seems like safety is not a priority anymore for this city. So it's I don't know. For me, as a like, I just moved here, and just hope for the better for next year, regardless of your political position here. I think we need some change, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, cycling in a city like New York, or using the bike as opposed to the car, or taking the public transit, shouldn't be a political issue in New York City. Like, it's like, look, I'm just trying to get from point A to point B, and I know nefarious people uh, like to pretend like cycling in New York City is for people wearing spandex, for the Freds out there. When really it is like, and literally everybody. And now I see women out, they're like, hey, look, it gets us to where we need to go quickly, and we don't have to be stuck in traffic all afternoon. Like, to me, choosing like the bike is like purely a time decision, an efficiency decision. Like, oh, I can just store it in my apartment. Even if it's like a tiny apartment, like I used to store my bike in in my room. Like, it's simple, it's easy, and I would ride it to work. They had a bike room at work. so I parked it there. Oh, that's one thing New York has done well is that places of employment for a lot of corporate offices, they have added bike parking as a part of the building. Same with my last apartment, they had bike parking as a part of the building. So that part is pretty good. But but as far as like bike parking when you're like, oh, I need to run to the coffee shop, or oh, I need to pick up groceries, um, a little bit more precarious. Like I went to Wegmans for the first time to do some grocery shopping, and it was, I was super nervous and I was rushing, but you know what? It ended up being fine. But there was city bike out front of Wegmans, but there was no like parking for bikes. Like, what if you ride a cargo bike and you want to put the groceries in the cargo bin there? Can't do that. So hopefully with the election going on, the new mayor, or no matter who it is, we get the bike parking there that the people are going to need, because look, everybody's going to use it. People say, "Oh, no one's going to use it," and then everybody always uses it. They said, "Oh, city bike, no one's going to use it," and then everybody used it. And then, like with the city bike, so I'm from Harlem, and so before they had city bike just in the central business district of New York. Well, then the people in Harlem are complaining that they didn't get city bike. Oh, we're not getting any investment and blah blah blah. And so then the city's like, okay, we'll start putting city bikes there. And now you go to the community board and everyone's complaining about city bike and pretending like nobody uses it. But then when I look at the stats and the data, literally everybody is using it. And even like some of my friends who I didn't know were using it exclusively as a way to bypass the train, because the train's not always on time. Whereas, like with a bike, you got a little bit more, you can plan your trip. So, to wrap this conversation all up, I just want to say that we need everyone in the micromobility community and urbanist community to support bike parking in their neighborhood, in their district. So, like these bike parking sheds that you can see right now on your screen. Also, the larger bike parking, like garages or bike parking buildings, we should support those, or the existing parking in the car garages that technically every car garage is supposed to have. um, and if you like this type of urbanist content, we're going to be talking about cars and bikes and public transportation and beautiful streets and abundant affordable housing. If you like that, then like and subscribe below and leave comments and give advice, whatever. We read the comments.